I'm Robbie Creates.
I'm Bags. How y'all doing?
Kendall Lawson, Three Scoops. What's going on?
We're interviewing Three Scoops today, and as you know how our interviews go, we like to talk algorithm. But before that, we want you to get to know the business owner first. Now, before we get started, my man Three Scoops has a lot going on. We just heard some crazy news, but we're going to talk about that later. You know what I'm saying? He might had a kind of a shoot in New York. I don't know. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
Excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. But before we, dive deep into it, let's give you more information about his business. So with Three Scoops, we want to go about how did you get started with your business?
Yeah, so it really started in college. I was an entrepreneurship major, which was kind of like wild to want to be in 2008, right? Entrepreneurship wasn't like something that you just said you wanted to do back then.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, how do you even major in that? So like my senior year, it was like, all right, everybody that was in the class had to create a business. And then you had to, of course, like have your business plan, financial plan, you had to present it, you had to have, just everything to make sure you had the best project possible. So that's when Three Scoops came about. And after going through all that stuff and presenting it to class and getting my first run of shirts and, building a website, doing a photo shoot, I was like, yo, this is the most fun in college I've had other than balling,
Yeah, you found it
so,
early, man.
So
exactly.
it was more like passion, you would say.
Yeah.
Almost that kind of crept in a little bit.
Right.
Wow.
Because I always been big into clothes, but it was like I never thought about having my own brand. I always thought about maybe having like a clothing store where I sold other brands.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
when I was allowed to like be creative for really like the first time and like really like create something, because before then I'd never been like a creative. But I tell people all the time I was more so like jockish before I was creative.
Yeah.
Being creative is kind of new to me. I'd say like 2016. Before then, it was all like I just knew sports culture.
Right. So, before we get into like what separated your business, I want to touch on that a little bit. Because I feel like that played a big role in maybe your color choices. Because I'm a big logo guy, right? So your color choices, the style you chose and the actual logo, it's amazing. But that blue with the red, now. Touching on that, did soccer influence your designs at all?
I'd say 100%. Yeah, because you got to think about it. It's like we all bald hair, right? So it's like we weren't just focused on like what was happening in America. Mm-hmm. We got to see Balotelli. We got to see all these European players and all these different styles that they would have. All these
That's
different
our
brands.
NBA over here.
Exactly.
That's
like,
how we looked at them.
All the or even like the cuts of uniforms. Yeah, there was a little bit of time to where it was a baggy uniform, but for the most part, most players had like a more fitted. Either
baggy uniforms, man.
Yeah, they had more either like fitted uniforms or even their personal style off the pitch was more fitted, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think a lot of that, like just growing up in like the soccer community and football community, kind of like molded like what I saw and how I thought about like fashion. But to bring it back to the US side, like I was a huge like Young Dro fan growing up.
Okay.
So it was like he was like super prep and all of that stuff. So it was like, all right, how do I mix the soccer culture with, I'm originally from Atlanta with the Atlanta culture, and then bring it back to, I've spent most of my time in the Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach for the most part, to like the beach board culture. And that's where like the colorways came from in terms of like that lighter kind of like sea wash blue. Because it fits like, being from the beach.
Right.
That's
everything erodes.
That coastal feel.
Pops, man. I love that. That's my favorite grade.
That's kind of like how that came about, and most, I guess the blue, the yellow, the red, I always try to make them either like seem like they're kind of like eroding, if that makes sense.
No, that makes 100% sense. That's why it feels that way. I know I love the design. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I got the originals on. These are from way back, day one. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And I'm no fashion guy. You already know that. I wear the same pants. So, but just getting down to it. Seriously. Even me, being somebody that, doesn't dress up that much, I love your clothes.
Appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? I know I told you that when I saw that jacket.
The
boy.
Was that the one from the
World
Cup one?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
That jacket. Like, I know the thing is, we people probably don't know this, but your clothes are versatile. Like, you know what I'm saying? Talk about that.
All right. So one thing, to take it like 2 steps back, right? So like one thing that I always experienced, especially in college, and I went to High Point. It's a pretty like preppy school, and a lot of people there have a lot of money. So like, you know, being in the clothes and the fashion, it's not like I wear like high fashion or anything. It just be like normal stuff, you know, Ray-Bans, Ralph, Clarks, things like that. I would always get the question of like, oh, is that legit? And that would make me furious all the time. Right. It's like, what makes you think I'm out here just like rocking fake shit? Like, why? Like, what about, like, you see me every day, you know, put fits on. So like every day you're going to come up to me and ask me if what I'm wearing is legit. So it was like, okay, I wanted to, I wanted to have something that was like undeniable, like across the board. It's like when you look at, like, because if we thinking about it from even like a black culture thing, it's like everything we do is almost considered bootleg. It can never be something of true quality.
Why can't it get a shine off the start? You know, why does it have to go through so much?
Exactly. So that was the other thing too. It's like no matter if you're gonna rock this for leisure, if you're gonna try to rock this at work, if you're gonna try to wear this on a night out, like I want to make sure across the board, people have nothing negative to say about it other than like, yeah, I like that. Oh, that's different. Oh, that's quality.
That's dope.
You know, so like that's the mindset I went into it of like a projection of like ourselves as just like a community, as a people. I don't want to give people a reason to always try to like look down on what we're doing, because like, nah, this is top notch.
Right. Even if they don't even purchase, they still have good things to say about it, and they still support it. It's like, yo, you know, not mine, but you know, I know some people, and that's you can't ask nothing better than that, you know, other than the purchase, right?
And that's the same thing, you know. I can say here with you all setting up and getting everything going, and the lighting and the cameras and like and the mics, like everything you guys are doing, like it's all 100% like professional. So it's like across the board, like there should be no first thought of like, oh, whatever y'all are gonna do is bootleg. It's like, nah, we're just as professional as everybody else. It's just like, it kind of sucks that sometimes we get that stigma of like, we gotta break past that for some odd reason.
I tell you, that's a difficult thing to pass. Right. You know? And I think it's in every industry, right?
Right.
You know, in every industry, it's in sports, it's in like how which child we caring for the most.
Right.
You know, it's everywhere. It's unfortunate, but man.
Even like when you're trying to show your brand, and you know, we got to deal with people every day, right? We got to deal with people every day, but now we have to deal with AI too. So we got AI and people, right? So you're going to, you know, you're showing your design this next level, it's unique, and they're still questioning, is it legit, right?
Right.
So think about what people, you know, right now we're questioning if our government's legit, right? That's a whole other conversation, right? But I mean, think about AI. Is it legit? Like, you know, with your brands, and you saying graphic designs, and you might go into AI. So if you could use any part of AI for your business to grow, which part would it be?
I would say the very first thing I like to see is like demographics, like marketing trend. If you can like type in, all right, let's say, you know, Dallas has a really good like fashion district there. So I'm like, okay, what's the predominant like people in Dallas? You know, how much money do they spend on clothes per year? What's the breakdown of that spend? How much is high end? How much is mid range?
That's potent.
You know, like
all the personas and stuff.
Exactly. What's the age group that's spending the most money on that high end? You know, what sections do they live in? So like that's probably the first thing I would look
important.
for.
That's your audience. That's perfect. You know, I mean, that's the hardest thing to establish at first, especially, you know, as a growing channel for us. But I mean, you know, for fashion and manufacturing, that's something you have to figure out first before you go deep into it.
Right.
With us, we kind of have to figure it out a little bit, put some stuff out there. What they like, what is he like, you know, and then figure out the persona.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So I know how that's big. That, you know, you get that. That'd be good for AI.
Yeah, and also what streets or corners or blocks is the most money spent on clothing. Because if it can tell you, like, yo, this block, this 8 blocks right here, this is where the most money is spent on higher end fashion.
Yeah.
You automatically, even if you don't know your target market, you're like, I know I need to be there.
Right. You know you need to put a store there. You know, if you put a store right there at that spot, or a sign or something,
just a pop up. You know, I'll trap out the backpack.
There you go.
I got a shirt that says I sell merch.
You gotta get it.
Right.
You gotta get it. I mean, and you're going to, if that's the hot spot. That's crazy. That's actually.
That would be powerful for real estate.
I would.
And they do, because I used to work in commercial real estate. So it's like they have something similar to that. It's a company called CoStar, and you can go on there and get all commercial real estate data and analytics, and it breaks all of that down for you. So it is like insane that you can do that type of stuff. But of course, you have to pay for the service in order to get that type of level.
So yeah, that's powerful.
That'd be ultimate targeting right there.
Because it's like, not to take us off topic, but the first time I went to Vegas, this was maybe like 2016. This is when Lyft was just now starting to like get their name. Right. So they went there and they dropped off free ride cards all over Vegas.
They're showing you what to do right
all
there.
All over. So yeah, it was
mastermind marketers.
Exactly. So you're like, yo, what's this? I usually use Uber. Oh, Lyft? I get a free ride?
Free ride?
All right. I found one on the floor. I get a free ride? Like, I'm going to keep using this. And next thing you know, you got Lyft on your phone.
Lyft.
Now I'm going to see, oh man, I usually use Uber. Okay, who's cheaper? Is it Lyft or is it Uber?
Just
like I got both.
Right. Just by getting their name in the talks with them. You know, sometimes that's all it takes in marketing is, and that's why they do negative marketing campaigns. It's just speaking of the person, and now you're on par magically with them. Maybe business owners don't market themselves correctly, I think, as well. But that's something, you know, we're going to help with as we meet other business owners. We want to involve them with AI, get them used to AI, but not just AI, also business marketing, doing it the ground zero way, but correctly. Right. You know, because you need both. In today's time, people are so sensitive to user experience. They need it from all angles, right? They need it digitally. They need a physical touch. You know, they need to see you someday. You know, out.
you get what, 3 seconds, 5 seconds?
Yeah.
Online, and that's you hope you get 5 seconds.
Right. Right. And it used to say it'd be 3 times to warm up a lead, but let's imagine let's times that by 6, right? Because what TikTok did. You know, everyone's.
You know, and then with AI on your side, bro, you can kick them to buy it every time. You just keep pushing them.
Yeah.
With less work, less time.
Absolutely.
I do have a question for you guys.
Oh yeah.
And I know every business is different, right? But for like a starter level like AI tool that you would definitely make sure that every single business owner should use, whether this exists yet or not, what would you guys recommend?
Yeah, you got this one.
I mean, you already know what my first one is going to say. Yeah. And let's be honest. I mean, ChatGPT is free. So if you're not using that, you're doing yourself a disservice. Now, you can have paid versions of ChatGPT where you do yourself a better service because you can buy a tailored AI for your industry if someone's made it. So you could get lucky and maybe someone's made one about clothing, just about if I'm going to do this apparel, how should I cut the design with the material so that it doesn't slip between the stitch, right? Maybe ChatGPT can help with that. Just because somebody loaded that information in there previously.
Didn't know that was a thing. Okay.
Yes, sir.
They just build on the data, the information that's given. And I think that was one of the first things I actually hopped on was ChatGPT. So they should been, everybody else was hopping on too at the same time. So all that data, people are just building other apps off of it and all that. Dude, it's just like, I mean, I would say like maybe a few months ago, it would have definitely been ChatGPT. But now,
there's so many.
They didn't came out with so many in so little time, man. It's ridiculous. It's like they got 4 or 5 other alternatives for ChatGPT. And who knows? One of them might be better. You know, you guys. I just check them out, and I'm keeping my ears open. You know, keep your ears open, keep researching, keep updated, like whatever with the fashion industry. Yeah, you updated with the new trending styles, and that's what we had to be with the AI stuff. Because I mean, we riding that way. We got to grip on because it's taking off. Yeah, in so many different directions. Like, so yeah, man. I say test it out, see what works best for you.
But just to go deeper than just the first level of, you know, it's probably what everyone's going to figure out when they type on Google, what AI should I use, right? ChatGPT is going to pop up. It has direct competitors now, with Google being one of them. And Twitter's AI, Grok, is actually, I think, in my opinion, is better than all of them. And he's pretty cool. But you have to pay for it to get to use it. But it's, you know, it's a few bucks. Right. So what I would suggest, other than these chat bots, which are bots that help you get information, and help you organize information, bots like Opus Clips. We use Opus Clips. Opus Clips cuts up your video for you, right? Give it a polished video, it goes in and cuts it up, right?
Beautiful. Just a little bit of editing.
It's trained. So think of somebody, you know, who's doing a podcast and you're editing it, and you're taking all the notes you're using that where you're editing it and just writing it down. After a certain amount of people do that over a certain amount of hours, you can give that to a real robot that can read all that information and organize it, and then help you answer questions using that. That's how these things work. So for any industry, that's why AI is a big thing now. For any industry, they're going to use this.
That's crazy. I just did a podcast maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it was probably, honestly, it's probably like almost 3 hours long. And he was like, yo, how should we chop this up? And I was like, I mean, not too sure. So the fact that y'all just told me that, I'm like, yo.
Like, yeah. You would be like, hey, don't even worry about it.
Yeah, don't even worry about it. I got you.
Like, well, it's just like anything else, man. What you put into it is what you get out of it.
Exactly.
So the better the quality that you put into it, like, you know, you got the lighting right, you got the right angles, and like, you know, the ones that hit, bro, it picks it up like it ain't nothing.
Right.
And it's
all
gonna make
matters.
it. So if you put some crap in there, you're gonna get some crap out.
Gotcha. Well, I'm definitely gonna plug you in.
We need you next time. You better be ready.
But yeah, just harping on it, like, okay, AI, long story short, it's going to be, and this is me telling you this because I'm behind the scenes, it's going to be in every industry, every single industry that exists. They're going to use it because it's an assistant for every industry, and every industry has an assistant. So just that alone is going to prove itself. Now, whether you have more things it can do, that's up to the industry itself.